In previous episodes of Drop the Bow Tie, we've discussed generically the proposed changes to the safeguards rule. Those changes are extensive. The safeguards rule is virtually quadrupling in size, and that additional heft is going to have significant impacts on how dealerships conduct their day-to-day operations. Today I want to talk about something that flows from that expansion of the safeguards rule, and it's not happy news. The cost of compliance is going up. Way up. Sorry. There are two things in particular that are going to have a real cash impact on dealerships that significantly and seriously try to follow the proposed updates to the safeguards rule. The first is the requirement, and I'm quoting now, that dealerships designate a qualified individual for overseeing and implementing your information security program and enforcing your information security program. For purposes of this part, Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO. The CISO may be employed by you, an affiliate, or a service provider. To the extent this requirement is met using a service provider or an affiliate, you shall retain responsibility for compliance with this part, designate a senior member of your personnel responsible for direction and oversight of the CISO, and require the service provider or affiliate to maintain an information security program that protects you in accordance with the requirements of this part. What that means is simply this: you have to hire somebody or hire a service provider to perform the function of CISO. And I've done some research on this, and it appears that a real CISO is going to cost over $100,000 per year. This morning I looked on Indeed.com, and it looked like the average salary for such a person is about $130,000 per year. And if you're in a major metro area, you can expect that number to go up, way up. If you've got 50 stores all across the fruited plain, adding $130,000 or $150,000 a year person to the payroll may be a blip to your overhead. But if you're selling 50 cars a month in Amro, Wisconsin, it's not going to be in your budget. So hiring a full-time CISO is not strictly required. It may be the best way to go, but if you can't afford it, you're going to be forced to use an outside provider, known as a service provider, to perform the functions of CISO. And I have researched this as well, and it appears to me that it's going to cost you probably $4,000 to $5,000 a month for an outsourced service provider CISO. Don't shoot the messenger. If I can find a cheaper way of doing this, I'll be happy to share it. But as of right now, it looks like that one requirement of the revised safeguards rule is going to cost you big. The second area of increased expense is related to the first. Yes, you need a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, but what is that person supposed to do? Well, one of those things is revealed later in the proposed revisions. Your dealership will be required, and again I'm quoting, regularly test or otherwise monitor the effectiveness of the safeguards key controls, systems, and procedures, including those to detect actual and attempted attacks on or intrusions into information systems. The CISO's got to oversee that or perform it personally. The rule goes on. The monitoring and testing shall include continuous monitoring or periodic penetration testing and vulnerability assessments. Absent effective continuous monitoring or other systems to detect on an ongoing basis changes in information systems that may create vulnerabilities, you shall conduct annual penetration testing of your information systems, determined each given year based on relevant identified risks in accordance with the risk assessment, and biannual, meaning every 6 months, vulnerability assessments, including any systemic scans or reviews of information systems reasonably defined to identify publicly known security vulnerabilities in your information systems based on the risk assessments. Let's talk about that every 6-month job first. That's the one that may not be terribly expensive, but it's within the area of responsibility of your CISO. A vulnerability assessment can be done using automated scanning technologies and do not have to cost a lot. If you're doing it on a one-off basis, it might cost you thousands of dollars. If you're doing it on a regular basis with the same contractor, it might be closer to $1,000. But the reason it's that inexpensive is because it can be automated. The other requirement of penetration testing is very difficult to do using automated software. And that's because it requires someone, and it should be an outside source, so you're not auditing your own work. That someone is going to be real human, a real human trying to penetrate your computer. They may use automated software programs to do it, but it's very difficult to scale, and because of that, it can be expensive. So, if you're using an outside service provider to perform the duties of your CISO, that $4,000 or $5,000 a month that I'm afraid it's going to cost will likely include the software tools that you would have to buy anyway if you had your own in-house CISO for $130,000 or $150,000 a year. But however you approach the problem, it is a requirement and it has to be done. The cost of compliance is going up. Sorry. And if there can be a way of doing it in a more economical manner, we'll be sure to let you know. For Drop the Bow Tie, this is Jim Ganther. Thanks for watching.